The first time I caught Victor Grayson eyeing my 1965 Ford Mustang from across the cul-de-sac, I should have sensed the storm brewing. It was a crisp March morning in Willow Creek, our quiet suburban enclave, the kind of place where kids still rode bikes in the street and neighbors waved over picket fences. I was out in my driveway, hunched over the Mustang's hood, wiping down the chrome trim with a soft rag, the kind of ritual that felt more like meditation than maintenance. The car had been my father's obsession, a gleaming black beast with white racing stripes he'd babied until the day he handed me the keys 7 years ago, just before cancer took him. Every time I ran my fingers along its curves, I could hear his gravelly voice recounting tales of drag races on dusty backroads, the roar of the V8 drowning out the world's noise. That car wasn't just metal, it was him, alive in every polished inch. Sweet ride. A voice broke through my reverie. I glanced up to see my neighbor, Paul Hensley, peering over his hedge, a steaming mug of coffee in hand. But she still purrs like a kitten when you open her up. When I let her loose, she does, I said, grinning as I buffed a smudge off the fender. Been keeping her for the good days lately. Smart move? Paul nodded, his eyes crinkling with approval. Hey, you met the new HOA president yet? Victor something. Moved into that monstrosity on the corner a couple months back. That's when I noticed him, Victor Grayson. A wiry figure in a pressed polo, wire-framed glasses glinting in the sunlight, clutching a tablet like it was a weapon. He was strolling down the street, pausing at each house, his head tilting as if he were appraising livestock. When he reached my driveway, his steps slowed, his gaze locking onto the Mustang. There was a flicker in his expression, something sharp, predatory that I couldn't pin down then. Now, looking back, I know it was the look of a man sizing up his next target. Nope, haven't had the pleasure, I replied to Paul, watching Victor tap something into his VYC before MOVYing on. What's his deal? Paul snorted, lowering his voice. Word is he's got a mission to elevate the neighborhood. Started slapping violation notices on folks left and right. The Millers got one for their mailbox being a shade too blue. Ridiculous. I laughed, but there was an edge to Paul's tone that stuck with me. Sounds like a real charmer. Guess I'll keep an eye out. You do that, Paul said, sipping his coffee. Rumor has it he's got a thing for rules nobody even knew existed. Watch your back, Ethan. I waved him off, returning to the Mustang's gleaming finish. In hindsight, that warning should have sent me digging through the HOA bylaws I'd barely skimmed when I bought the place a decade ago. But Willow Creek had always been easygoing under the old leadership reminders about weeds or trash bins, nothing heavy-handed. I figured Victor was just some overzealous newbie who'd burn out. I was wrong. 3 days later, the mail brought a crisp envelope with the Willow Creek Homeowners Association logo stamped in the corner. Inside, a letter informed me that non-operational vehicles weren't allowed in driveways per Section 9, Paragraph 4 of the community guidelines. I had 72 hours to move the Mustang to a garage or off the property or face a due Law 150 daily fine. My jaw tightened as I read it again, the words sinking in like a punch. Non operational. The Mustang was pristine, registered, and ran like a dream. I just didn't drive it every day. I grabbed my phone and dialed the HOA office, which I noted now had a polished voicemail system instead of the old answering machine. Willow Creek HOA. This is Samantha, a chipper voice answered. Ah, Samantha. This is Ethan Caldwell at 217 Oak Lane. I got a notice about my Mustang, and there's a mistake. It's not non-operational, it's a classic, fully functional. One moment, Mr. Caldwell, she said, followed by the clack of keys. Okay, I see your file. The report says the vehicle hasn't moved in over 3 weeks, which classifies it as stored, not parked. I pinched the bridge of my nose, fighting to keep my cool. It's a 1965 Mustang, not a rust bucket. I don't drive it daily because it's valuable, not because it's broken. I understand, sir, but the rules don't differentiate by value. If you'd like to appeal, you'll need to submit Form HOA 392 and Pro VY to proof of regular use. This is insane, I snapped. I've had this car here for years, nobody's ever cared. The board's been updating enforcement under our new president, Samantha replied, her tone maddeningly calm. I can email you the form if you'd like. Fine, send it, I growled, rattling off my email before hanging up. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the appeal form glaring at me from my laptop. It demanded maintenance logs, registration, and EVY denke of regular operation, like I was on trial for owning my own damn car. I dug out the records, oil changes, tune-ups, the works. I even snapped photos of the spotless engine bay and the flawless paint job. Before sending it off, I scribbled a note about how the Mustang was my dad's legacy, hoping a shred of humanity might sway them. It didn't. A week later, another envelope arrived, thicker this time. My appeal was denied. The board claimed the Mustang's infrequent use disrupted the neighborhood's VY Sewell harmony, and collector cars belonged in garages or off-site storage. My garage was already packed with my daily driver, a beat-up Toyota workbench where I tinkered with old radios, a hobby I'd picked up from Dad. Storage facilities? Hundreds a month for a car I wanted to see every day, not stash away like a dirty secret. I was fuming. Just saw a sticker on your Mustang, he said, breathless. Bright yellow. Says it's getting towed in 48 hours if you don't move it. I bolted outside. Sure enough, a neon warning was plastered across the driver's window, the adhesive already seeping into the glass. I clawed at it, but it left a gummy mess I'd have to scrub off later. As I stood there, cursing under my breath, Victor Grayson appeared, striding up my driveway with that damn tablet. Mr. Caldwell, I presume, he said, his voice dripping with fake warmth. I see you found our notice. Yeah, hard to miss, I shot back, gesturing at the sticky residue. Was the standard protocol, he said with a shrug. I wanted to discuss this in person since you seem attached to the vehicle. The board's serious about compliance, but we're reasonable. We'll give you 2 weeks instead of 48 hours. Cover it with a plain gray tarp, no designs, and we'll call it even. And if I don't, I crossed my arms, leaning against the Mustang. Victor's glasses flashed in the sunlight. Then it's towed. Our contractor specializes in classics, so no worries about damage. His smirk said otherwise. I've dealt with tow companies, I said. Specialized just means they jack up the price, not the care. This car's been in my family for decades. It's not hurting anyone. No complaints needed, Victor replied smoothly. We're reviewing all properties for consistency. Your car's just one piece of the puzzle. Others getting this treatment too? I pressed. Community standards apply to everyone, he said, tapping his tablet. Think about our offer. 2 weeks with a cover, or 48 hours as is. He handed me a card and walked off, Leah VYing me stewing. I went inside, poured a whiskey, and decided to fight. The next day, I called in sick first time in years and hit the ground running. I dug out my HOA paperwork, poring over the vague wording about non-operational vehicles. Then I tracked down the old HOA president, Margaret Klein, now Lee VYing in Arizona. She picked up on the third ring. Ethan Caldwell? The Mustang kid? She chuckled after I jogged her memory. What's going on? I explained Victor's crusade. That's not what that rule was for, she said, indignant. It was about junker cars with no engines, rotting in yards. We added it after some guy turned his driveway into a chop shop. You can fight this. Request a hearing in writing, copy every board member. It'll stall them. Following her ad VYC, I fired off a letter and started rallying neighbors. Paul confirmed the rumors. Victor was hitting everyone fences too tall, roses too wild. We had a hearing scheduled in a week at the clubhouse. I spent every night preparing, gathering proof. Photos of other cars sitting idle, my Mustang's records, and a bombshell I stumbled on in Dad Falace's certificate naming the Mustang a state-recognized historic vehicle. Turns out, he'd registered it years ago, and state law limited HOA power over such items if they were maintained. Jackpot. The hearing was tense. Victor sat at the head of the board table, flanked by 4 others, including Clara Evans, a sharp-eyed former lawyer. I laid out my case. The Mustang's condition, its legal status, the law protecting it. Clara pounced on the registration being in Dad's name, but I had the transfer papers ready. Victor tried to pivot to aesthetic harmony, but Clara cut him off. If this holds up under state law, we might not have jurisdiction, she said, eyeing Victor. We need legal counsel. The board voted 4-1 to pause enforcement, pending review Victor the lone dissenter. Neighbors cheered me as we left, but I knew he wouldn't quit. Sure enough, next morning, a new notice hit my mailbox. My lawn was a 1/4 inch too long, and my lilacs weren't approved. Retaliation, plain as day. Paul called with more. Victor's targeting anyone who backed you at the hearing. We're calling a special meeting. 25 fan tram of residents can force it. Our rebellion grew. We hit 35 fan tram signatures in days, uncovering Victor's past 3 communities in 6 years, each hit with strict rules, then sold off to developers. A retired reporter, Ellen Price, linked him to a shady real estate firm. The special meeting on April 25th was packed. We presented our case, stats, photos, legal limits, Victor's history. He faltered as board member to VYD Ruiz, moved to suspend all notices. A 3-1 vote crushed him. Then old man Henry Tate dropped a bomb. He'd seen Victor, under a different name, pull the same stunt in another town years back. Victor vanished days later, his house up for sale, MOVYing trucks creeping out at night. The board rescinded his notices, reformed the rules with resident input, and the Mustang became a symbol of our win. By May, Willow Creek buzzed with life classic cars rolled out of garages, neighbors bonded. Investigations tied Victor real name Vincent Baraudo, a fraud ring. But for us, the fight was over. One sunny Saturday, I took Paul for a ride in the Mustang, its engine roaring down country roads. Dad would have grinned ear to ear. Some things, I realized, are worth every ounce of fight you've got. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY.